agree on the cuts, but they feel that the request to eliminate collective bargaining, basically amounts to union busting. So the question is, specifically on the union busting issue, the goal, according to many of those people out there, is to break the union. Can you not see the point? Is there no room for compromise if they're willing to give us the financial incentive?
Well, for us, we're broke. We don't have any more money. We have a $3.6 billion budget deficit, and you really can't negotiate when you don't have money to negotiate on. For us to be involved in good faith negotiations, we'd have to offer something. We don't have anything to offer because we don't have any money. We're like nearly every other state across the country. What I'm trying to do with this measure is unlike what Governor Cuomo's done in New York, unlike what Governor Brown's doing in California and other places across the country, where they're ultimately seeking to balance their budget by cutting billions of dollars for their schools, their university system, their local governments, and not giving them the tools they need to balance that. We're giving these local governments the tools they need to balance the budget without having to have massive layoffs, without having to cut services off there. And one thing I'll correct, it's not a tit for tat. The simple matter is I campaigned on this all throughout the election. Anybody who says they're shocked on this has been asleep for the past 2 years. I talked about this. I talked about the 5 and 7%. Heck, for the past 8 years prior to me being governor, I pushed for this in Milwaukee County because I knew it was a much better alternative to have changes in pension and health care contributions than to lay off hundreds at the local level, in my case now thousands at the state level. And for us, it's about balancing the budget. If we were about doing something to the unions beyond balancing the budget, we would have completely eliminated collective bargaining. In this budget, in this budget repair bill, it is maintained for the base salary. And if we were ultimately about attacking the unions, we'd be doing something to private unions. I don't have any interest in doing anything to private unions. I think the private unions are a key part to getting the state's economy going. I welcome working with them. This bill and our measure has nothing to do with private unions here in the state of Wisconsin.
When it comes to Medicaid, why take the public out of the decision-making process for the coverage there?
For us, it's still very much involved. The Joint Finance Committee would still have to have a passive review, and most importantly, for any requests for any sort of adjustments to try and account for the fact that Medicaid, like it is everywhere across the country, is one of the biggest growing parts of state budget deficits. Ours, out of our 3.6, about $1.8 billion is the Medicaid deficit. We need to have more flexibility, and we need to have the ability to make an appeal to the federal government. But the Joint Finance Committee or Budget Writing Committee would ultimately have to still approve that, and probably of greater importance, the Obama administration would have to approve any of the changes we're proposing.
Are you surprised by the reaction out in the hall?
No. I mean, anytime you're going to make a bold move challenging the status quo, you're going to face passion out there. But anytime you're facing it, I did it for 8 years. I was the first Republican elected in Milwaukee County. I was reelected 2 times thereafter, largely because we made bold moves to get that pension system fixed, to balance the budget without raising taxes, and to put more power back in the hands of the taxpayers of the county that I represented at the time. That's the same thing I ran on all throughout this campaign, and it's the same mission I have here, is to make sure we can do 2 things. One, in our first month to 5 weeks in office, we were the fastest moving state in the country to show that we could make changes to make it easier to do business in the state, to allow the private sector to put more people to work, and ultimately to achieve our goal of creating 250,000 jobs in the private sector by building a better business climate. Secondly, we've got to balance the budget. And anybody who doubts that's interconnected need only look at what Illinois did a month ago. In Illinois, because they failed to make the tough decisions, they have a pension system that's only about half funded. They failed to make the tough decisions, and so instead of doing those tough things, they turned to the taxpayers, they raised taxes on businesses and individuals, and in turn we've seen a massive exodus of employers and jobs and individuals looking to come to places like the state of Wisconsin because they realize it is a better business climate and a better place to create jobs and put people to work in. We've got to have that same stability if we want to get people working again here in the state of Wisconsin, and that's exactly what we're going to do. For too many years, too many politicians in this state, and right frankly across this country, have ignored the reality. Many of our governments are broke, and the best way to fix them is to take head-on the challenges we face here in the state of Wisconsin, and certainly other states should do it the national or across the country as well.
It's all about saving money. Why do you exempt firefighters and police officers?
Yeah, real simple. For us, the one thing that I think nearly universal expectation of government is public safety protection. We saw last week, for I think it was 3 days, teachers here in the city of Madison walked off the job, and which is really ultimately if they're striking an illegal action. Thank God, cooler heads prevailed, and they decided to come back to work today, and I appreciate that, or at least in many jurisdictions across the state. But we can by no means ever have a gap when it comes to public safety. I can't have the possibility, and I don't think most people are going to walk out, but I can't have the possibility anywhere in the state of Wisconsin that if there was a fire or a crime or anything else, that there would be one gap, one interruption in services out there, because there's no way we're going to put the public safety at risk.
We got time for one more question?
Sure.
Friday, your office called the Assembly Speaker and said that his safety could not be assured in the evening. If there was a legitimate concern about safety, and why weren't the Democrats also made aware of that concern?
Well, we're going to be in the process in the coming days as the debate continues to make sure that all 132, and I hope that includes the 14 state senators who are missing in action, but all 132 members of the State Assembly and the State Senate have adequate protections, because we know there's a lot of passion out there. There's a lot of passions we saw this weekend on either side of the issue. Part of living in a democracy is being responsive to the people, but it should mean putting your own personal safety at risk. We want to make sure that every one of our members, Republican and Democrat alike, who serve in these chambers have adequate protection. I think the vast, vast majority of people who are here in the state, including the many thousands who come in from other states, as we saw over this weekend, have been overwhelmingly positive in terms of following the law, being respectful of others. I would hope and pray that that continues here, but we're not going to take any risk. We're going to make sure that all 132, no matter how much pressure they get the kind of safety and the security that they need to feel safe, not only here but in their homes, and that's important for us. Thanks very much for your time.
Any reaction to the reports